Hello, and welcome back to Tales from the Pit. I'm your host, Michael Swaim. This is your content warning. Today's episode involves discussions of sexual assault and child molestation, which is heavy stuff. But first, something a bit lighter. The introduction, in which I described to you how earlier this year, in March, I came out on Twitter, and I did so with a thread that read as follows. I'm queer. I'm in a monogamous relationship with a partner that the world sees as female, but I am sexually attracted to all sorts of folks. I've never faced any special challenges as a result, which is why I've never felt, quote, queer enough to consider myself part of what I think is a special community. But after talking with friends, I've learned that not feeling queer enough and being afraid of appropriating that identity is common among queer people, and not a reason to hide behind the myth of straightness. I believe most people have a complex sexual identity, and truly cis-het folks are probably a minority. So, yeah, I mention this only in the hopes that one of my followers might feel encouraged to fall in love with their own irreducible, unique, beautiful sexuality. My life remains largely unchanged. See you on the next pod. Well, here we are on that eponymous next pod. And to help me, help you hopefully fall in love with your own irreducible, unique, beautiful sexuality is my good friend and fellow queer person, Marina Ryman. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Welcome to the pit, everyone. First and foremost, I will just lay all my cards out there and say this is the weirdest I've felt going into a Tales from the Pit. Probably not for the reasons that you're already projecting onto the episode, but actually because of like imposter syndrome. And I think my guest can relate.
Lord,
this is
yes.
Marina Ryman.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, my pleasure. It's been way too long. Finally, time to get you in here.
Yes.
Here in the pit. And I will say that I did the least research. This is the least structured. If you had guessed it on the Tales from the Pit before, Marina, you might have gotten a questionnaire or an email saying the direction I wanted to go in. But I really didn't prepare for this, and that's kind of by design. Because I think that's a perfect microcosm of what we're talking about, which is queer identity and our own sexual identities. And it's interesting for me insofar as, like, even as this episode approached, I kept thinking, maybe I should have some real queer people on, and because like we have the Bold podcast, which is hosted by a queer couple. I'm like, really, they should be doing this. And I'm like, wait, no, that's the whole point of the podcast.
Exactly.
Is to say that that you can embrace the identity that you want to embrace. So first question that comes to mind is, Marina, you reached out to me after I came out on Twitter.
Yes.
So what resonated with you? And I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but yeah, just tell us a bit about your complex, unique sexual identity.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I self-identify as a cisgender pansexual woman. So my pronouns are she, her. And I have to say, and this is going to sound so weird, that when you did put out that tweet, Tom and I were not even a little bit surprised. It just...
Oh...
For me, and it's interesting, like, Tom was like, I tweeted that to you. I was like, oh, yeah, Tom and I thought that might be the case. And then Tom was like, are you sure you want to tweet that?
Are you supposed to say that to people?
Exactly.
I don't know if they like that or not.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I reached out to you to make sure that it was indeed okay. And I discovered that you were every bit as kind of anxious as I am about talking about this stuff and sort of like considering yourself a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And you mentioned imposter syndrome. I've got it 1,000%. And I'm so excited to talk to you about it because, as you pointed out, we don't exactly fall into the typical, queer, I don't know, idea. God, I'm so nervous. I'm like shaking because I don't want to say something wrong. But we do belong, damn it.
And I think that's sort of the insidious intersectional brainwashing that needs to be undone is this was what my queer friends pointed out to me, was that by very virtue of the fact that that is those presuppositions that have been woven into your DNA. You think, oh, I can't be part of the LGBTQ community because they're the other and I'm not the other.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel quote unquote normal. I feel like myself. Meanwhile, I'm sucking a dick, which I've done, and I'm like, this is delightful, but I'm also like, but I'm not like,
hey,
gay,
me too.
Yeah, sure. Oh,
well,
I can say that now. It's like, yeah, it's fun as hell.
It's
very easy to operate. Yeah.
How do you self-identify?
Well, that's the thing is I really believe, or I guess it's the handy way for me to be lazy and not learn the proper nomenclatures. I feel like it's beautiful that the language is blossoming to envelop sexual identity as a spectrum, but like I suspect that if we were truly honest about the language, there would be so many different pronouns and classifications as to represent a gradation on a bell curve that's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Like I truly believe that when you get right down to it, everyone's sexual proclivities is like a menu of things they do or don't like in different contexts, with different stimuli at different tones, and everyone's is probably completely wholly unique to them and not exactly like anyone else's.
I agree completely. I actually see it in my head when I think about it as, and this is going to sound stupid. Everything I say is going to sound stupid, you guys. Just like it's like a spectrum of light, and I don't think anybody is like, oh, you're straight, you're straight up straight. Like Tom, for example, is a cisgender straight guy, and I just oh, and because he's okay, so I'll just jump right into this if you don't mind. That
please.
Since I'm married to Tom Ryman, who is absolutely wonderful. My God, he's so wonderful. We recently celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And we've been together for almost 10 years now. We've been happy the entire time. Every year, I just fall more and more in love with him. And I've got goosebumps right now.
See, I've been with my current girlfriend 9 years.
Ooh.
And we're still not married. What's up with that?
Well, hey, don't ask me, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Up to you.
I don't know either. Well, I know in my case it's because I got married super young and had a bad marriage.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw I'm gun shy. And she's also gun shy for her own complex reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So we're essentially married, but we just won't. We're like depriving ourselves of a party we could have had.
Yeah, yeah, really, that's all it is. It's a really expensive party.
Yeah, exactly.
Oof.
But you were saying about Tom.
Sorry about that. I just went on a tangent about how much I love my husband, but basically,
boring. Not
I
pit
know.
appropriate.
Well, here comes the pit
Okay,
appropriate parts. I don't feel like I have the right to consider myself a part of the gay community because I'm basically in a straight cisgender relationship. I'm completely monogamous. So I'm not, oh, I'm so embarrassed.
You're not having sexual experiences with
Yes.
anyone but Tom.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Totally.
Thank you.
All my experiences that would quote unquote, this is what's so weird about it, earn me the right to say that I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community. All those experiences were before I was with my current girlfriend. So it's been 9 years of total monogamy. So I could have sailed through my whole life and always thought of myself as a cisgender hetero male guy, dude, bro. And but I didn't, through exploration, learned, like, I don't like everything in every situation, but learned what I like and don't like, and realized it's broader than, like, I'm somewhere on a spectrum, not just a point.
Yeah.
And that just is true. Like, it doesn't cease to be true just because I'm currently monogamous.
Exactly. You
with
have
the woman.
You have
Yeah.
your own journey, and that was what made me realize, like, when you and I did have that initial little conversation, I finally added the flag, the rainbow flag, to my Twitter.
nice.
I was like, oh gosh, it felt like I was doing something really daring, and yeah, I got excited about it, but I realized
Which, yeah. I just want to reflect back to you that I had the exact same experience.
Ooh.
I thought months and months ago, oh, I guess I'm queer. Oh, that would probably be nice for people to hear. Oh, I should probably tweet that. And then I just thought about it for 5 months before I actually tweeted it, and realized that it required me to work up courage.
Mhm.
And then I had to introspect around, why does that have to work up courage? I think it's cool to be gay. My dad's gay. And then I
Oh,
realized
cool.
that it's so complex. It's not only the, like, jumping into an unknown realm, but it's also, in this day and age, especially having a privileged life. That's the other thing that the brainwashing, I think, leads you to.
Yeah.
I have the story in my head of growing up my dad grew up in a society where he felt repressed and didn't, basically the way he describes it. So, a very powerful figure in my life was like his experience, and everyone's is unique, but his was like, never thought I was gay, furthest thing from my mind, but one day realized in my mid-40s, oh, I am super, like, fully gay,
I'm
not really on the
super
spectrum,
gay.
on the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah, I mean, like, he's exclusively dudes.
Yeah.
And it just, like, happened to him like a switch, because it had never been allowed internally for him to even consider it.
Yeah.
And I think we do have the picture of, like, oh, you must have undergone, oppression, or have been disowned by your parents or
Yes.
something, so that you have the cred to agitate for
Yes.
freedom of expression and love. And that's bullshit. Everyone should agitate for
Hell yeah.
everyone being alive. Yeah, so it's like, at least everyone queer in my life was like, we are just, if it's genuine to you, as many people, because the truth is, like, everyone is somewhere on the spectrum. So as many people as can embrace the LGBTIQ plus community and say, I'm not just an ally, but if it feels authentic to you, I'm in some small way a part of it. It only, like, strengthens or helps to break. I won't say only, because there are some side effects that I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
Because I am coming at from a very privileged place. As I said in the thread, my life largely will remain unchanged, which is an insane privilege.
Oh yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I completely relate, because everything that makes me part of that community happened in my past. I mean, I have a journey, and that there was oppression. There totally was, not just from the straight community, but from the lesbian community. Bisexual girls are not trusted. I was thinking there are a few myths that I encountered. I used to identify as bisexual. That started at about 7th grade, but I grew up in the South, so that was not something that I could really explore, or so I thought. So I thought I was bisexual because I didn't know that there was a word for what I really was, which was basically gender blind. It doesn't matter to me what a person's gender or orientation is. I just see the person, and I'm attracted to them or I'm not attracted to them. And it's nice when I discovered that there was a word for it. I felt so happy, which is interesting because I was doing some research, and there is some controversy over the term, because there are people who think, bisexuals have had to go through so much, and they don't all consider it, just men or women. it's like bi plus, like it just means for them I'm attracted to more than one gender. But I was really surprised that there was so much controversy. But anyway, that's one thing I've discovered about the community that makes me really nervous, is how sensitive the subject of labeling is.
Yeah, getting back to labeling, you're asking me, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you define pansexual to me? 'Cause
Sure.
it might be that. But recently I described in detail my proclivities to my girlfriend, and she said I'm a demisexual.
Oh, is that where you only are attracted to you're only into romantic sex? Is that what that means?
I only really am on board with the vibe if I have a strong emotional connection to that person, really respect and admire them. And also, in a classic, I guess, entertainer way, the main thing that dictates how well a sexual experience is going for me is how much I think the other person's enjoying it.
God, yes. That's what turns me on.
Good way to look at it is what turns me on is turning the other person on.
Me
the idea that I'm
too.
turning them on. Yeah, so I think that's demisexual, but I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it is that we're desperate for validation, just in everything, including sex. We need constant knowledge that we're doing a good job, which I know is part of it for me. I need my partner to be like, you're doing a good job, buddy.
Yes. Well, let me ask you a question, deeply maybe TMI. Like, so for me, I can actually get off when somebody else is getting off. Like, I will orgasm at the same time as that other person, just even if I'm not even being physically stimulated. Does that happen for you?
Yeah, and that happens for me, and the reverse was very telling to me, which was that because in the marriage, my previous marriage, it was everything was on the table, threesomes and sex parties and all kinds of stuff. But through that exploration, I realized that I legit could not orgasm if it was like a threesome, no matter what gender or if they're my type or how attractive they are or what a good job they're doing at sex. We have to have had at least like a 3-hour conversation and gotten to know each other. It just wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
With a stranger.
Yeah.
And I know that it does for lots of people. Like an attractive stranger would be fine. But yeah, it's just not my deal. Which gave me such an appreciation for Michael from Agents of Cracked, who I wrote for 3 years as a cartoonish pansexual.
Oh, awesome.
And it turns out I think I kind of am a cartoonish pansexual.
Well, let me define it for you. I've actually got a couple of things. So I gave you my definition of pansexual, just my personal one, but Merriam-Webster defines it as relating to or characterized by sexual or romantic attraction that is not limited to people of a particular gender identity or sexual orientation. So that's how I feel. There's also a really cool article that I started to read. It's on them.us, and basically they took 9 pansexuals and had them explain... Oh wait, that's not that's a different article. This is actually a Rolling Stone article that I was reading about pansexuality versus bisexuality. It's very much about how, what I was talking about before, the controversy, but they defined it as someone who was attracted either emotionally, physically, or both to all genders. This includes...
Bisexual or pansexual?
Pansexual, sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this includes cisgender, transgender, agender, and gender non-conforming individuals. But the article goes on to interview some bisexual people who consider that definition to apply to them as well, and actually don't really like the idea of pansexual being a label, because it kind of takes away from... I don't know. I didn't fully understand their argument.
But bisexual, the root of the word is bi for two.
Yes.
So it's becoming an antiquated term, and
exactly.
pansexual is more appropriate. Because bisexual implies, well, look, there's only 2 genders. This person's attracted to both of them. And pan is all, so
yes.
I don't know. That makes more sense to me.
That's how I feel. But there are people who are like, this is how I've identified all my life.
I'm proud
I don't
of my
want to change.
identity.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the other argument is, well, do we want to honor all of the bisexual people who, pioneered all of the change that that we're experiencing, where we have the privilege to be loud and proud with it. So it's interesting. Definitely check out the article. I believe it's What's the Real Difference Between Bi and Pansexual on rollingstone.com. So,
nice.
Yeah. I also like the word queer because it's just like very vague. It can mean kind of whatever you want, it seems like. So if you have a complicated identity and you don't feel like explaining it completely to a certain person, you can just say, well, I'm queer. That's the them.us article I was reading. They took 9 people from the LGBTQ plus community and had them explain how they love, hate, and understand the word queer. So that was very interesting too. But
I picked that word to come out on Twitter with because I like it, and I feel like it's been thoroughly re-owned by the people it formerly oppressed. But it is interesting. I mean, you got to note that has been a hate term.
Yes, we
not in
reclaimed
the lives
it.
of the younger generation today. It's kind of been reclaimed for like maybe 2.5 decades now. But
yeah.
Yeah.
There are some people in an older generation who hate that term because they had to deal with it as a hate word.
Used against them, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting because like words are my favorite thing.
Mine too.
They give form to thought and they program our brains. Like I don't believe it's dissolvable from thought. Like language is thought.
Yeah.
It's the reason we're so smart, and the token of our intelligence is language. Like that's the artifact of it.
Yes.
And so it seems very, very important, and yet there's so little in my life that I think of as indescribable or indefinable. And I do feel like the sexual spectrum's one of those things.
Yeah.
Or in the sense that there can be an infinite, I guess a handy analog would be the color spectrum, just like you said with light. Because have you shot for paint lately? You can name an infinite number of colors because there actually are an infinite number of colors because there's always colors in between those colors. And I do think the same thing is true with sex. But it's interesting. It's more like a long questionnaire of likes and dislikes.
Exactly.
So you can be pansexual and demisexual, and I suppose.
Yeah.
And yet by the same sweep, like it seems so crucial for people to find value and power in the word that they choose to use to define themselves. So
yeah, how do you feel now that you've just come out? And congratulations, by the way. I'd love to know what the how do you feel different?
I do feel more of an onus. So, okay, I first feel the need to caveat and say, like, in my mind, this episode itself is more for people who are on a similar journey to us or who are questioning whether they can embrace their own identities or claim, partnership in a community. I think if your intentions are positive and you're trying to bolster and like promote that community's interests, then you're probably welcome to the table, and that's like the people I'm hoping this episode goes out to. I'm sure much more knowledgeable people about queer issues could listen to this episode and find it totally worthless and remedial, and us very smug and like amateurish, what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
In our like groping for gay identities.
Yeah.
But and that's the other thing, that's the other stigma, is you feel like this is, I mean, literally a thought I had that I think is so crazy that I should have to have this thought, but I was like, people will think I'm just saying I'm gay to be cool.
Yes, because it's kind of cool now.
Because it's cool now, which is like, I'm barely old enough to remember the tail end of like it definitely not being cool. And of course, gay people are still undergoing horrible oppression to this day.
Yeah.
But there's a liberal bubble in which we live, in which it's a cool status symbol kind of to be gay.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be the blowback, that people would be like, come on, you're with this Jennifer person.
Well, that's
you
what
know?
I wanted to actually. That's what I was gonna say at the very, very beginning. The reason that I, for one, wasn't surprised is I felt a kind of a kinship with you. Like there was just something about you that I was like, yeah, we're
Oh,
like I can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like
Absolutely.
we were undercover members of the community, just like, oh hey, yeah, I see you. Just
yeah,
and
but not to aggrandize our street
yeah,
cred.
no. Although I gotta say, I made some monumental mistakes during my journey, so I do have a little bit of street cred, I think, with this.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the juicy part, so we should probably compare because
Sure.
well, here's so to answer your question first about the way I feel different is I feel more onus to actually show up for the community in meaningful ways
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, I am throwing my hat in this ring, so to speak. So, and I think, or it's all well and good to embrace your own sexual identity and love yourself just in and of itself, but it's cool if it motivates you to try and be more active in your community.
Yes.
If you're making a community-facing statement like that, but and then the other way it's made me feel different because I'm just a chronic oversharer as a comedian. It's like I'm like I was so excited to say the thing about dick sucking on this podcast. I'm like I can finally just say, because I make quirky observations about everything. So I've made quirky observations about making love to men, and now I can use them.
Hell yeah.
In my material.
A whole bunch more.
That's all.
You can mine so much more now. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just, but it was a rough journey on my end only because I was in an open marriage when it was the hard way to find out that I enjoy monogamy and that I really need that emotional connection, because it was an open marriage which allowed me to explore so many different combinations of kinds of sex, but at the same time I was undergoing constant like jealousy issues that my wife, because she was the one who wanted the open marriage, and I am a very exploratory person by nature, but there came a point where I wanted it to end and she didn't want it to, and that led to the dissolvement of our marriage. But in the meantime, it was amazing how much data I collected, and it was interesting. I just learned so much because it was like I also seem to have no discriminator as regards size or age or race or gender.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if that's your situation.
No, it is. It totally is.
I find lots of human bodies interesting and beautiful. If you're mean, I immediately don't find you attractive.
Yes.
It's very emotional.
None of my exes look anything alike, really.
Yeah, so I could never figure out my type because I would have like a sexual experience where I would like go over and hang out with like a middle manager type gay dude who's like kind of schlubby, like Dilbert, if
a
he
guy
were alive,
who
right?
does he has like a timeshare.
And they'd just be really nice, and we'd hang out and do sexy stuff all day, and I would go home like walking on air. Like that was such a satisfying sexual day.
Awesome.
And then I'd have then we'd go to like a sex party, and I'd be in like a foursome with quote unquote standard attractive people, and I would be feeling humiliated, and I would not be able to keep it up, and man, oh my God, you do not know the awkwardness of being in a foursome with like hot people, and you're not as hot as them already, and you're like, my dick's not working.
No.
Sorry. You know what I mean? And it's like,
why? What did you do?
Because you're not that attractive to me. I don't know.
Yeah. How did you deal with that?
With aplomb and humor.
I guess you kind of have to.
I mean, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm quick on my feet, so I just make a joke or like be loving and open and honest and try, But yeah, those were some dark times. Like things that could traditionally, if the context was right, would have been enjoyable for me, and things that I know as a teen boy I was trained to lust after, like like a threesome with two chicks is would be like one of the worst nights of my life. It just totally depends on the context.
Yeah.
Or being at a party and not having sex with anyone but just hanging out could be super, super fun.
Oh.
It all depended on so many factors, and unfortunately at the time it didn't feel like a freeing journey, because every encounter was within the context of my marriage is falling apart due to this, but I can't stop it.
Not exactly
yet,
sexy.
No, but the stuff I learned about myself was still true,
Yeah.
about my sexual likes and dislikes. So, okay, so what was the rough part of your journey?
Oh man.
And or highlights?
Oh well, I'll just do like a brief overview.
Please.
So the first time I noticed anything that was different was in elementary school. There was this girl who came to school all the time dressed as a boy. Even she had these spiked suspenders that I just thought were so cool. But she made me feel just kind of funny. And I just wanted to see her, but I could never get up the courage to talk to her. And then in 7th grade, I remember when I had the epiphany, oh God, help me, I'm bisexual. Because I didn't know pansexual was a thing. I was in 7th grade in science class, and I was looking at a girl and just seeing her hair was so pretty, just the way the horrible fluorescent lights were glistening off of her golden tresses. And it was terrifying because I grew up in Virginia in a rural, tiny little fishing village called Gloucester, technically Guinea. And that kind of thing, like there was a church every 3 minutes, and I'm almost not exaggerating.
I'm just confused by the town having 2 names. Why is it technically Guinea if it's called Gloucester?
Because there's like, my neighborhood was basically a village within a town. The town was tiny, but then there was this, the neighborhood I grew up in was this, it was populated entirely by watermen who had been kind of interbreeding since the colony days.
Sure.
And had, like, they even have their own accent, which I cannot replicate, unfortunately. But yeah, they have their whole culture, and they are really conservative. So if any of them ever found out, like, I could get seriously hurt. There was a boy who was openly gay at my high school, and he died suspiciously at school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just not a good place. So I just kind of tried to ignore it. But then when I was about 16 or 17, my best friend and I got really drunk and had a sleepover and had sex. And
Nice.
oh yeah, I thought it was great, but it ended the friendship at the time.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, teenagerdom.
Mm-hmm. Because I ended up.
Fucked up time.
Yeah, it's when she realized she's not gay, and I was like, oh no. And she just kind of stopped talking to me. And then I screwed up even more when I was 17 and 18, again, with my new best friend. I genuinely fell in love with her. She was incredible. I was deeply, deeply in love with her. She was my first love, like real, real love. And I've had 2 great loves in my life. One's Tom, the other is this girl. And unfortunately, she was like trying to be more Christian. She had these bi tendencies. Like, we actually watched porn together. And we posed in lingerie together. It took some pictures, and it was so close, but we never quite crossed that
So
threshold.
close.
Yes, I was like, oh my God,
no, the
please.
one that got away.
Yes. So what ended up happening is I got scared, and when I moved away to go to massage school, I stopped talking to her, and I regret that so much. I handled that so poorly. In the end, a few years later, we met up again, and I told her what happened. And she was like, you should have just told me. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. But anyway, I came out at 19 and dated this girl named Sam, and she was so gay. She was so gay. But she didn't want to be. She ended up, it hurts. She one day just we worked together, and everybody at the place was talking about how she was getting married, and I'm like, what? We didn't talk about this. We're getting married? Okay. Nope. She was going to marry her male best friend, who was deployed. I think he was gay, but he was like in the army, so not a good place to be gay. And that was how she was going to handle that. She was going to try super hard to be straight, but she didn't tell me. So that's how that worked. But I did introduce her to my parents before that happened, and my parents were absolutely cool. That's another reason I'm like, oh, I don't belong, because they didn't care. They were like, oh, okay, whatever. And then the last, I really, really screwed it up. The last crowning failure was with this woman named Mary Pat when I was 21 or 22. And my stepmom had been calling me a slut just because she was really, really mean. And
really, she sounds lovely.
Oh yeah, she was delightful, just a sweet. Anyway. Yeah, so Mary Pat decided to surprise me with a visit right after Toril, my stepmother, and I had a terrible fight about my sluttiness. And I was...
Alleged sluttiness.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it has not been confirmed. Because there's a couple myths about people who are bi or pan. One, that they're just greedy. But I am and have always been monogamous. That bi girls are just straight girls who are either just curious or pretending to like girls in order to entice men. I was accused of that. And also that a bi or pansexual needs to be intimate with more than one gender in order to be happy. And that's not true. I can appreciate all sexes. And in fact, when I was watching the movie Trading Places, I think it's called, with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Remember that scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is undressing just kind of suddenly?
I believe you.
Yeah.
It's been a long time,
well,
but I can imagine.
Literally choked when that scene happens. Sitting
with horniness?
Yes. Sitting right next to my husband. Luckily, he laughed. He thought it was very, very funny. But I don't need another partner in order to feel completely fulfilled, sexually, even though I am pan. I am a huge supporter of porn. So that's if I feel like...
I was just about to ask, how's your porn breakdown?
I love audio porn. And yes, now,
people reading stories or doing soundscapes like moaning and groaning?
It's... Okay, so... Japan has a huge, audio... Oh, yeah.
Japan.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge niche called otome, which means maiden. And they do these CDs where it is a story, but it's a story that has sex scenes in it. So the person is acting it out completely and talking to you with a dummy head mic, so, you can feel where they are. And it's just, it's incredible. Give it a try. It's amazing. And even if you don't understand Japanese, there are translations available. You can definitely hit me up on Twitter at HeartFistBrain if you want anything, and I'll recommend something for you. But anyway, so yeah, that's how I handled that. I discovered an awesome CD that's about a transgender woman, and or rather from the perspective of a transgender woman. So it's acted out by a cisgender man, but he's really, really good at it, and he manages to make love to you exactly the way I would imagine a transgender woman would, which is exactly how a woman would make love to you. And it's incredible because it's a man's body, but he's wielding it like a woman. And I should say she, because I'm talking about the character. I'm talking about the actor, but the character wields his dick, wields her dick like a woman would if she had a dick. Yeah. So it's really
but that
amazing.
Still strikes at that thing that I think we're still navigating with all art, erotic or otherwise. Is like, by the same token that Hank Azaria shouldn't do the Apu voice.
Yeah.
I don't know if a cisgender man should voice a trans woman in an erotic novel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not for me to say. But you're saying he's good at it.
Indeed.
Good.
Yeah,
great.
I really feel like the actor captured, I don't know. And you know what? I don't know much about the actor, except that he has a man's name. So I just assume, but maybe, that's the thing. Assumption is not a good idea. Yeah.
We can do it less and less these days.
Indeed. So.
Well, that's what's weird about life is everything is unique unto itself. Every situation that unfolds has never unfolded exactly that way before.
Yeah.
And yet our brains are designed to make quick decisions by categorizing things like, oh, this is like that other time this happened, so do the same thing.
Yes.
We're not really built. We are built to quantize the universe, and the universe doesn't actually exist as discrete quantities.
Yeah.
Which I think is weird.
Well, I think that's just
sense,
the way we...
Our perception is an illusion. Like, we're wrong about the way we perceive the universe instinctively. Yeah.
But at the same time, perception is reality, at least for us.
That's true. So in your brain sense, it is real. So my only connection to that story was I did write erotic fiction as a teen.
Ooh.
And they're online, and no one will ever find them.
Oh, come on.
They'll never, ever. No. Nope. If anyone ever does and sends it to me, I'll be like, I will confirm.
Oh,
but that's all.
Man.
And
Well, I have some out there too. It's erotic fan fiction, and maybe you'll find it. Maybe.
Well, my problem is I think that at this point, like if I wrote it today, it would be illegal. Cause it was like,
what?
I was 17 writing about other 17-year-olds, having sex with other 17-year-olds. So I'm like, I couldn't write that story today.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And I don't know if it was okay to publish it even then.
Oh.
I guess you can get away with it if it's a story.
Yeah, because I know that it's interesting, if you're a teenager and you send pictures of yourself, you can still get charged with distributing child pornography.
Oh, I know. That's why Snapchat just announced OnlyFans announced that they're going to pivot away from porn, which is...
What?
I mean, support sex work.
Yeah, please.
We benefit so much from it, and that is fucked up that they basically... including a large part of the queer community, will always push like new technology platforms forward. Then the platform, valuates for $1 billion and is like, no more porn. We're a serious company now.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's fucking bullshit.
It is really hard.
But anyway,
there's I'll be plugging this at the end of your show, but one of the things that I do that again makes me like it's what I'm trying to do to contribute to the LGBTQ plus community, as best I can. I have an online community called Heart Fist Brain that I originally designed when I was so depressed and sick that I could barely get out of bed, and it has helped me to lead a productive life. And I owe so much to everybody who joined back then and who has stuck with me. It's for people who have physical, mental, emotional disabilities. Obviously, anybody is welcome. It's an inclusive community, but one branch of it that I'm about to roll out this month is 50 Shades of Yay, I call it. and it's where I do my sexy cosplay. And
you dress as Kanye, I assume?
Kanye. Well,
50 different times from his life.
Yes. I mean, if it strokes your boat. Wait, that's not the right.
Strokes your boat? That's not even the expression.
No, it's not.
You're not really pansexual.
Oh, gosh.
It's whatever floats your clit.
Oh, God. People with glass dicks shouldn't throw balls. Boners.
Balls?
Yeah.
So what? That'd be a good tagline after you just like if Batman just crotch stomped a bad guy.
Oh my God.
People with glass dicks shouldn't throw balls.
I love it.
But that sounds amazing.
Thanks.
That's really cool.
Well, it's not just sexy cosplay. I also so here's something that tells you something about, I guess, speaks about how comfortable Tom and I are together. But I used to be a cam girl for ChatterBait, and this kind of okay, cool. Well, I really, really enjoyed it. It helped me to kind of take back my sexual power, because I was molested when I was 8 by my best friend's stepdad, who was also molesting her.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Thanks. I'm actually just now starting to deal with it, because I blocked out that he did that to me, because I actually told on him for doing it to her, and he went to jail, and she moved away and never talked to me again. And I've always been like, did I...
And your brain just
kept
those memories
separate
for a while. Yeah.
And then, however, it did affect me, and the sort of behavior, hypersexuality is definitely something that I've got going on. Had a lot of partners, and I just kind of always have defined myself in part by sex. And then when I was a young adult, I got raped in my car, and after that I just kind of felt like I had been robbed. But doing the ChatterBait thing gave that back to me, and it was an incredible experience, and I have carried that over to 50 Shades of Yay. It's not just sexy cosplay. I also do like mature photo shoots and talk about porn and talk about sexuality, and it's been wonderful. It was a separate thing from Heart, Fist, Brain, but I'm rolling it all together this month. So you can just choose that tier if that's what you're into. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying
that's
to...
such a very precious and inspirational thing, I think, to still feel in touch in a positive way with what's great about your sexuality.
Yes.
After it's been violated and, taken a beating. But I'm so happy for you that you're like still... No, I still like my sexual side. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's mine. It's mine, damn it. No one can take it away from me. And that's
because I have a rape survivor very close to me who did go the other way for many, or was like, I just became asexual for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
Before it slowly thawed and I found interest in sex again.
Yeah, it can go either way.
Everyone's journey is their journey, but
there was a time when I couldn't say no to anybody. I just didn't feel like I had the right to hurt their feelings. And I feel dumb.
Too.
Oh yeah.
That's how I ended up getting a blowjob from an elderly woman who, right before she went down on me, stopped to take her dentures out.
Whoa.
And I was like, what am I doing?
Oh my gosh. Oh.
And she was really into it, because at that time I was like 19, really good looking. I'm like, I'm sure this is a treat for her, but I just sort of wrote it out.
Wow.
That's what's interesting too, is even though I've been in a situation where I've explored lots of iterations of sex. I've had a lot of shame around how, like, I'm not even that sexually driven, or I've always there's that also weird thing that I think is uniquely acculturated to, like, masculine seeming people in the US, where I was like, do I want sex enough? Should I want sex more?
Yeah.
Every sitcom and stand-up comedian is like, if you're a person with a penis, you should think about sex every 7 seconds and all this shit.
Yeah, it's like, am I
so it
a
felt
man
like,
enough? Like, yeah.
So for me, it was a long journey to realize I prefer monogamy, and I'm not missing out just because I'm not eating everything at the buffet all at once in a big pile.
I love that.
And it was like, you could, it's like I could eat anything at the buffet.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you can't just go, I like this, I'll have a plate of this, please.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like,
I have chronic FOMO, though, in every aspect of my life.
what? What's FOMO?
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh.
The idea, like, I never want to let the universe down by saying no to any experience or opportunity.
Yeah.
Which has gotten me into a lot of trouble. Like, if anyone offers me any drug, I will try
Oh,
it.
man.
And that's not always good. You
No.
know? And I did the same thing with sex for a long time.
Yeah.
And if you just do that, you will end up in some weird places.
Yes, you sure will. Ugh, I would do, and there was a time I got in, there's a heavy light episode all about this, but I was briefly Mormon and married for about 7 days, and it was horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, he was abusive.
Whoa.
So
My Week as a Mormon
Yep.
sounds like a docuseries from HBO or some shit, though.
it should, yeah, it was.
What an amazing experience.
It really was. It was a horrible but very elucidating experience, I guess.
Were you, in your mind, were you genuinely trying to,
Yeah.
like, were you trying to believe in Mormonism in your heart?
I was.
Were you trying to convert?
Yes, I desperately
person?
wanted to
Okay.
belong, and it wasn't just for that person. It was a time when I was rejecting myself. It was after I had been raped, and I just had no idea. Like, the rape was kind of a wake-up call, because I realized that I was just putting myself in these situations just because people asked me to or told me to. I just didn't have any self-esteem, and I have always been a chronic people pleaser, and I'm in therapy right now and have been learning about that situation. We'll go a little bit darker for a minute here, but then we'll climb back out to a shallower part of the pit, I promise.
Sure.
I got through that experience, that attack, by empathizing with him and determining exactly what he wanted and not disturbing his narrative, because it was a very violent attack. I had these deep, nasty bites, and he was it was just very bad. But I still thought it was my fault. And I thought it was my fault because at the end of it, I was like justifying it to him. I couldn't stop babbling just about how everybody was way too prudish in our society, and random sex was just fine with me, and nobody, like, just making it okay. And it was because I realized it was because I thought he was gonna kill me. we were in the.
You were just trying to survive the moment, the situation.
We were deep in the
of
woods, and no one knew where I was, and it was just terrible. But my therapist has helped me to realize that was not a failure, that was a victory, that was a strength, because I did survive, and that's pretty awesome. But I'm sorry.
Not at all.
I'm having a little bit of a problem for a second.
Understandable. Take your time.
Thanks. When they say just breathe, it sounds like such bullshit, but it really does work.
It's the only thing that works, really.
Yeah.
I think a lot of listeners will appreciate that you were willing to go to that place for them.
Well, I'm grateful for the therapy that I've had that's allowed me to go to that place and be able to come back. I'm very lucky.
That seems to be the recurring theme of the series.
Yeah.
Do therapy.
Yeah. Because I think
more people need low bar access to therapy.
Yeah.
So.
No kidding. And it needs to become more acceptable. It needs to become more normalized, I think. That's actually part of what I want to do with my community, is make it feel like you're discussing the weather. Like, oh, hey, I dissociated for like 3 days, like, oh yeah, okay. It's like, oh yeah, there was a, thunderstorm. Okay. I had just like, yeah, sorry, I'm babbling.
Not at all. No, you're not.
Okay.
It all makes total sense. I mean, the very first episode of this series was an interview with my mom about her sexual assault.
Oh, wow.
Just in my own life, the percentage of people I know that have been violently sexual assaulted is such that it's not a negligible issue.
Yeah.
And as much as it's painful to say, it needs to be normalized.
Yeah.
It needs to be normalized to speak about it, because it's out there happening a lot.
Way more than you would think.
Way more than you would want
like
to believe.
Listeners,
you like to think the world is a decent place.
Exactly. Yeah. Listeners, you know someone who has been assaulted. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
They may not ever say it, but I can pretty much guarantee that you do. Especially if you're listening to this podcast.
I want to make it clear that the podcast organically turned a corner, and we're not conflating our queer identities with being a survivor of sexual assault, I would say.
But that just, sorry guys.
No, just because they appear side by side in an episode does not mean they're causally linked.
I don't think they have anything, like, my sexuality was solid way
Sounds
before
like
that
was in
happened.
full bloom
Yeah.
way before that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it had no effect on my preferences. So it sounds like you do kind of identify as pansexual, like what you're describing to me, like, oh, hey, you're maybe a cisgender demisexual. Yeah, pandemi. That I like that. Although it sounds like pandemic.
My girlfriend, that's true. I don't like that. My girlfriend just shaved her head and bought a whole new androgynous wardrobe and is considering pronoun change to they them. So
sexy.
We'll see what happens with that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Of course, gender identity being entirely different from sexual identity.
Absolutely.
This is another aspect that I do understand it, but I will still misspeak. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I would be like, well, yeah, the sex of, and they're like, you mean gender, not sex. And I'm like, I know, I didn't.
Yeah.
I meant that entity with a vagina over
yeah.
there and did this to this person. Yeah.
We and that's the thing. We don't know what we're talking about to after a certain point, beyond our own experience. And this is, my God, the issues in this community are so complex. I was reading that there are like 52 genders, and obviously, like we were saying, an infinite,
arguably an infinite number of genders.
Yeah, that's true. I should say like 52 identified common.
Again, this episode is for people like us who are amateurs fumbling around, new in their journey as far as like it goes with like embracing and engaging in the community.
Exactly.
It's
pretty.
You feel free to at me and tell me all the stuff we misspoke about.
Yes.
Not Marina.
Oh no, you can at me too, because I think it's a team
effort. Well, they can at you, but they should just say how cute you look in your cosplay or whatever.
You are so sweet.
Not the bullshit. I'll take the bullshit. What are you most often cosplaying? Like, what IPs are we talking? What franchise?
So I do Tifa cosplay, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh!
Yeah. Oh my God, me too. Are you excited for Horizon 2?
Oh, for this. Well, this is a very different podcast.
Yes, sorry.
Now, but Yeah, I just watched. Yeah, I watched the full stream. The Horizon, what's it called? Forbidden West
Yes.
gameplay teaser. Looks
Yes.
sick, dude.
It does. Oh my god. Oh, I can't wait.
The climbing looks better. The combat looks tighter.
Yes.
Looks
It's the
really
only
fun.
reason I care about the PS5 at this point. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm going to have one of those, but
I can't spoil what I think about Returnal because that's on the next one.
oh, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to have to check out one-upsmanship when you do it.
Oh yeah,
I've,
we'll be covering Returnal soon.
fabulous.
And
Let's see.
what else? Final Fantasy VII remake.
Ah!
All right.
Well, then, yeah, I do a Tifa and I do Aerith for the remake.
That's true.
Yep.
And you pronounce it Aerith, so good for
Aw,
you.
thank you.
I think that's the correct
Yeah.
Anglicization of that name. But hey, nomenclature's complicated.
It is.
The Aerith Eris issue is still up in the Aerith.
Yeah.
Oh, I just started playing the DLC and I found out it's Yuffie. I always thought it was Yuffie.
That's what I thought too, but that makes sense.
It's Yuffie.
Yeah.
Or at least according to this team who made this game, it's Yuffie.
Yeah. Well, I tend
Okay.
to trust them. I was gonna say, it's daunting, really. If you're like us, I think maybe if you're looking at the LGB community, kind of like, oh my God, how am I ever gonna understand all of this? And what if I say something wrong? And you will.
And you probably
will. Yeah.
And you will get checked.
Yep.
Also normalize getting checked.
Yeah.
It's fine to get checked and go, I'm sorry, and then you don't do that again.
Yeah, that's how we learn,
yeah.
and it's cool.
Gotta engage.
But at the same time, if you know a lot about this, please be gentle when you check, because you don't want to make people afraid. You know.
That's true. I think that's a valid point. Yeah, we fucked up, Marina. I still have the lingering feeling of like, I'm sure I said something horrible that's
too.
gonna get me canceled.
I realize.
Even though we're trying with the best of intentions to like reach out to other people
Yes.
and share. I'm like, I bet we did it
I'm
wrong.
actually rocking in my chair. I'm so like nervous.
Yeah. I'm in a love sack in a fetal position, weeping. But where can people find you to harass you about the fallout from this
Oh,
episode
yeah.
that's inevitable?
Well-
tell us where Heartfist Brain lives.
Well, it lives on Twitter at HeartFistBrain. It also lives on patreon.com/HeartFistBrain, which is getting a brand new kind of facelift this month. I'm very excited about it. So I also I stream video games in cosplay at twitch.tv/HeartFistBrain. You're going to notice a theme.
It's that you were savvy enough to get all your URLs to align. We tried.
Oh.
Like, Small Beans is taken on some platforms.
Really?
Like YouTube already had a Small Beans.
Ah,
So we had to change it.
lame.
Good for
Thank you.
Heartfist Brain it's punchy.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And you got it across. You got all the URLs across the board.
You know what it comes from?
Good business sense.
It comes from Horizon, the choices that you make.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'm replaying that right now
Oh,
because I got so
yes.
amped off the teaser. So, yeah, she always solves her problems with a heart, a fist, or a brain.
Exactly.
That's right.
So so that's where you can find me. So please don't be shy. We have a Discord. So if you join the Patreon, you should automatically get a link to the Discord. And if you select the 50 Shades of Yay tier, I will add you to a Google Doc with the corresponding folder, because it's really hard to host not safe for work images and videos. People are just like, well, like you were saying about OnlyFans, we're an upstanding site. We're not trying to deal in pornography.
Even Snapchat's starting to do that behind the scenes a little bit, like in their corporate messaging. And it's like, you know what Snapchat is,
Yeah.
right? It was for people to send nudes to each other. That's like what your success is built
Yep.
on.
But it's like they abandon it once it's lived out its use.
But Google's cool with it, right? Google's like,
Yeah, they don't care.
it's just data to us,
Yeah,
man.
seriously.
It's just a unit of data.
But please don't out me to Patreon, because they don't like it one bit. So that's why I do
Okay.
a folder. But yeah, I'm sure you guys are
Gotcha.
cool. I'm sure you guys aren't narcs. But
Yep, everyone listening to this retroactively, don't be a
yeah.
dick.
So thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was really wonderful.
Marina.
I feel lighter having discussed this.
Thank you so much for sharing. That light has been expelled out into the pit, and it's shining like the Luxor spotlight into the night sky.
Yes. Well,
That's all I got.
everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Stay safe out there and be well.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!